You're listening to the IT Career Energizer podcast, episode 25.
Welcome to the IT Career Energizer podcast. For anyone who wants to build and grow a career in IT, develop and improve your strengths and skills, be inspired and motivated by the successes of others, manage your career progression, and achieve your IT career goals. And now, your host, Will Bushee.
Hi, Phil here, and welcome to the IT Career Energizer podcast, where I chat with inspiring IT professionals, consultants, and experts every week. To find out more about the podcast, visit itcareerenergizer.com. And while you're at the website, you can download your free copy of 11 top career tips for IT professionals, many of which have been discussed on the show. And now let's talk with today's featured guest, Will Bushee. Will has been involved in technology startups his entire career. As a leading expert on web harvesting, he runs BrightPlanet and has 8 US patents on deep web harvesting. He is also author of Wired for Coding, a guide for IT students on how to stand out from the crowd and land their first job. So Will, can I ask you to perhaps expand on that brief bio and tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, excellent. Well, thanks, Phil. I appreciate you having me today. The bio, covers a lot of what I do. I guess a few things that I would add in is over the last couple of years, I've gotten involved on teaching kids more about technology through some different camps and events that I've been hosting. And that's been a lot of fun to just get the youth involved. This is everyone from about 4th grade through about 7th or 8th grade. Once they get about that old, they tend to not be that interested in learning through our camps and want to go do their own thing. And the other thing I think is worth mentioning is I've been spending a lot more time on our local entrepreneur community here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, helping some of the startup businesses.
That sounds interesting. So is that a large part of what you do, or is it just something you do as an extra?
Yeah, it's more of just kind of some extra stuff that I do. I enjoy doing it, and so a lot of times, I'll meet with businesses in the evenings or grab lunch or coffee with them, provide different advice. I mean, as you know, when you've kind of done something for 20, 25 years, you get to kind of be an expert, and you just being able to provide and pass more of that guidance down to them is a lot of fun.
Okay. Could you share with us a unique career tip that the IT Career Energizer audience need to know and probably don't?
Yeah, for sure. I think all IT professionals really need to learn to be a good speaker. That's one of the things that, I didn't learn super early in my career. And I wouldn't say it held me back, but it was definitely something where if I was a better speaker, I think I could have gotten a lot further with a lot of projects earlier on. And I think that is something that, especially in IT, you just don't see a lot of people focusing on that soft skill.
No, that's very true. Personally, I've actually undertaken some recent update training regarding public speaking, so I feel it's something that you can continually improve upon throughout your career, and definitely a key skill to have.
Yeah, no, it's funny you mention that, because I kind of done the same thing on my end, and just more recently kind of got involved on speaking at a couple local events as well.
Okay, can you tell us about your worst IT career moment? What did you learn from that experience? Yeah,
well, I think like all of us that have been around for as long as I have, we've had a lot of worst IT career moments. I think one that really jumps to mind, this happened quite a few years ago. This was back when we actually physically had servers in a data center, and we were in the process of moving our servers from one data center to another data center in town. And we'd been at the old data center for a number of years and had a long-standing relationship with them, but they're kind of being a little bit unreasonable on getting us out, and they didn't want to extend our contract. And so I was just meet with a lot of local businesses, and I met with a friend of mine over lunch, and we're kind of just kind of talking about business struggles and challenges. And I mentioned to him about these challenges that we've been having with this company, and didn't really think much about it. Was kind of complaining a little bit because it was on top of my mind. Well, anyway, I got back from lunch, and it turned out he had called over to that data center and said, hey, why don't you cut this guy some slack and give him a break? And that, of course, made them super mad that I was talking about them, not necessarily in the most positive way, because I felt they were being unreasonable. And when I got back, I had this email from the old data center saying, hey, we don't appreciate you complaining about us. We're done. You have to have all your stuff out by the end of the week, which, of course, I wasn't ready to move because the new servers, they physically had to be moved back in those days. So this caused a huge scramble for me to get everything migrated over in just a few days, as opposed to a few weeks that I was actually planning on doing. So anyway, that was, I think, one of my worst IT career choices. And the real lesson that I got from that is it may be a lot of fun to sit around and complain about businesses and, maybe talk trash about somebody that maybe you don't feel is doing right. But, a lot of times that'll come back to bite you, and it just isn't worth the long-term trouble on it. So really from that point on, I always think twice about any time I've got anything negative to say about anybody or any businesses for that matter. And I think others should probably take that into consideration as well. I hear a lot of people kind of bad-mouthing other businesses, and I do know eventually it's going to get back to them.
Yeah. No, it does. It does sound a bit unfortunate, though, in terms of, it probably sounds like your friend thought they were doing a good thing.
Yeah.
Trying to support you, but it obviously backfired.
That's exactly right. And he just was mortified about it too, because like you said, he was just trying to do me a favor and say, hey, maybe I can get him to be a little bit more reasonable. And it did backfire. And we're still all good friends now. But, it's just one of those things that, you just kind of have to watch what you say and who you say it to. And best intentions sometimes just don't pan out.
Moving on from your worst moment, can you share with us an IT career highlight or greatest success and how you were able to achieve it?
Yeah, well, I think definitely this is fresh in my mind because it just happened a year ago. But, when I received that first proof copy of my book, it was just such a cool career highlight for me. It might not be the same kind of highlight that you're looking for. I know some of your past guests have talked about, some other cool, amazing things that they've done. But for me, I remember the day very, very well. And of course, it was a long time coming of the writing and the editing and the proofing and getting everything organized. And the book actually showed up a day early. The proof did. And so my publisher they were in a meeting that whole day. And he gives me a quick call and he says, "Hey, I got your book. I can't meet with you, but, I know you're excited to have it. If you want, I'll step out of my meeting, hand it to you, but I'm not going to have time to sit down and chat with you about it." And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So I ran across town, and he popped out of his meeting and said, "It looks great. I love it. Here you go." And I remember just taking that book and sitting there in that lobby, just kind of staring at it for probably 5 or 10 minutes in disbelief. It's just so tangible at that point. It was just such a cool highlight for me. And I just remember every time I'm over in that same building, remember right there where I was sitting for 5 or 10 minutes, there was nobody else around. It's probably a good thing too. Otherwise they'd have probably thought, who's this weird guy staring at his book?
So do you know how many copies you've actually managed to sell so far?
Yeah, well, sell and put in people's hands are slightly different sure. There's been many hundreds that have gotten into people's hands. I don't know the exact number that has sold. It's a little bit difficult because, with the most of the sales are through Amazon, and I usually just kind of look at the weekly snapshots, and I haven't really gone back to focus on it. But it's been many hundreds of copies for sure. Fantastic.
Have you thought about writing any more books?
I have actually a lot. I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. I laid this book out, Wired for Coding, with the intent that I could do like a Wired for design and Wired for marketing and kind of spin some of those very custom things for each of those careers. So that might be my next step. I just have been kind of busy since I wrote that first one. And so it's more of like a wintertime thing. So we'll see how this winter goes.
Okay. What one thing excites you about the future of a career in IT?
Oh man, I mean, technology is just moving at such a fast pace today. It's amazing. I just can't believe it. I've been in this field for many, many years, and to see the escalation of things right now is just insane. I really like the way a lot of these libraries are being encapsulated, and these new frameworks are coming out, and we're able to do things like software as a service for processes that would have taken a normal developer, years to build. They're now just one line of code that can be dropped in and made live. So it allows us to build new solutions just so fast. It's insane. And that's the thing that I think gets me the most excited. A couple really good examples that I've been messing around with lately is the Amazon's Alexa voice API.
Oh, yes.
And everybody's kind of familiar with the device that you can buy and sit on your counter. But it turns out you can actually write code straight to that API, and you can ask it things, or you can have it tell you things or read you things back just straight through a REST API that Amazon has provided. And it's just pennies to use. I forget the exact cost, but I mean, it's trivial when it really comes down to it. If you think about how much time and effort it would take a business to build that type of a system to put into a device compared to me just being able to write 5 lines of Python code and immediately integrate into this massive library, it's just insane. And I think companies like Amazon, and I know there's a bunch of others, but Amazon is the one that I've been doing a lot of work with over the years through their various APIs and their KDP Select and some of their AWS platforms. They've just done such a great job of making things that used to be super hard to do just a few lines of code. And that's what just gets me so excited. And I'm so excited for the youth coming into IT and computer sciences to not be burdened by having to build all that framework to just do something simple.
Yeah, I think probably over the last 5 to 10 years, the ability to integrate systems more and more, things like APIs have been such a revolution, really, in the ability for IT systems to provide solutions.
It is, and these aren't new concepts. I mean, APIs have been around since the beginning of code, but what has changed is the accessibility to them, and then every language, when you get into things like REST, where it doesn't matter what the programming language is or even what the intent is, you can integrate that into a phone or a computer or a web service or a Raspberry Pi. That has really changed, where it used to be a lot of proprietary platforms. And it's like, well, I could only use this API if I was in, C++ on a Windows machine, where that has just gone away. And so any API is available on any device, really no matter what. And I think that's what's really revolutionized the way code is being developed. And the other thing is I don't think the youth coming in today really have any appreciation for how it used to be, which is kind of sad. But when I was younger, going through just learning code, you'd have to dive into the assembly language and things like that to understand how they work. And now we're talking about, well, it's complicated if you have to dive into some C code to figure out how something works.
So it's time for the reveal round now, which is a series of short questions. So what attracted you to a career in IT?
Yeah, I mean, I just understood technology. I mean, that's just the short answer. I don't ever recall IT really being an option when I graduated high school. At the time, the people that were doing technology and IT, they really weren't trained either. It was more of they just found it interesting and started to do it. In a lot of cases, I knew more than what they knew, and they were technically the experts. I never really made a decision. If anything, I would say I never picked IT, but it just picked me.
So it's just a matter of that's how it went for you?
I just understood it.
Yeah, fair enough. What is the best career advice you've ever received?
Yeah, so this is a little bit more tactical than what you usually get, but I'm going to say, proofread everything that you write. I remember a manager that told me that early in my career, and I'm still really good friends with him today. But really, no matter how short or small that text is, and of course, back then we were talking emails or Word documents, but nowadays we're seeing, whether it's a social media post or a web blog or a tweet, you see these things that get pushed out without being proofed that just make no sense, or the wording is wrong, or a keyword is missed. So one of the things that I've always done, and again back to this advice that I was given earlier in my career, just proofread everything. It just takes maybe a minute, or maybe it's 5 minutes if it's a long email. But I can't tell you how many times that has saved me over the years. And it's both the text and if it's an email, make sure it's going to the right people. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen people send emails that have attached the wrong person in the to box, and so now it's been sent to somebody that it didn't intend to go to, and trying to unwind those messes can be very, very messy. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, you may have heard a similar story on a previous podcast where somebody actually did that.
I remember hearing that.
Yes. Okay, if you were to begin your IT career again right now, what would you do?
Yeah, there's so many choices, but I think one thing that amazes me right now is the people that are doing the front end or the web development on projects. And I'm really fascinated with what they're able to do. It's no longer just a single interface and a button is good enough to push. There has to be so much thought and design usability put into them, that does intrigue me. And I've built a lot of user interfaces over the years. And I honestly, if I was 20 going through college and looking for a specific niche within IT or computer science to pick, I think I would start with that user interface, because that's something that is usable across the board everywhere. It doesn't matter if you're web development or a mobile development or anything. That user interface is just so key. And for me personally, I'm just intrigued with the guys that do it really well on why they do it so well. So that would probably be the path I take.
Yeah, I think that's a very good path to take. More and more systems rely on their front end or their user experience to be successful. That has to be an area where there's so much potential for career development.
There is, yeah. And it's a combination of both the design as well as the way it's implemented and the usability. You look at all the great things that companies like Apple have done, how they've, even just little things around just rounding corners just right, or putting in this specific drop shadow. But you start to get into some of the other, and again, technology as a whole doesn't have this long-standing reputation of having good interfaces. So anywhere where you can make a huge improvement just makes such a big difference. And I'm just intrigued with those that do it well. And I know some people that just build gorgeous user interfaces, and I'm just in awe of what they're able to create.
What career objectives are you focusing on right now?
Yeah, I mentioned it a little bit earlier at the top of the podcast, but right now I'm pursuing a little bit more around professional speaking. And I never thought I would say that earlier in my career, which is kind of interesting. Over the last few years, I've been building these videos that I use to help our instructors teach our gaming boot camps, and I use them both for our instructors, but also some of our mentors or people that help us out. One of the things that I noticed by editing those videos was just all these bad habits that I was doing. I was slurring words, and I was using weird slang words that I made up and not articulating well at all, and I would repeat the same word over and over again 4 or 5 times in the sentence.
Yes.
But I just never noticed it, because people don't listen to their voices and kind of hear how it is that they're speaking. But when I started to do that, I noticed it, and I even just simply by listening to myself record those and edit those made a huge difference on kind of how I was speaking. And then I kind of started to enjoy that, and I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. So I started to seek out some different speaking opportunities at local events. I did a couple presentations here over the last few months at a couple little symposiums that we've had in town. It was a lot of fun, and I do think that you look at the IT people that have great insights, they do struggle with that public speaking. So if you're able to kind of do that a little bit better than the rest, you come across so much better. So that's one area that I've been spending a lot of time on. Like I said, I've been speaking at some local events. I recently joined a local Toastmasters group earlier this year, and then I continue to just shoot different videos and edit those, and sometimes just audio.
What's the number one non-technical skill that has helped you in your career to date?
Yeah, I think just being a curious learner, without a doubt, has been the thing that's propelled my career. And I say that as it's like an obvious thing, but there's people that you can kind of tell that are curious learners, and if there's something that they don't understand or struggle, they want to figure it out, and that's always been me, and it drives my wife insane, because I'm always getting into different things all the time. A few years ago, a friend of mine asked me about Raspberry Pis, which I only kind of peripherally understood. I knew what it was, but I never really dove deep into it, and I had a light IT background, hardware background. I definitely wasn't an expert. So I started to look into it just because I love technology, and I thought, well, this is kind of neat. Lots of people are talking about it, and learned a whole bunch about that platform. And I've been really, really impressed with everything that they've done and built on that. So, but that's another good example where it was something that caught my eye and sparked my curiosity. And I just kind of dove in because I naturally wanted to learn more. And since then I've expanded out into some other IoT devices as well, some of the Arduinos, and some of the lesser known ones. There's hundreds of different IoT kind of device platforms that are on the market today. And I've built a ton of these little projects, and I say small projects, but in reality, some of these things are super complicated that I've built. I built this one. It was one of those things where you keep seeing people run red lights, and it just annoys me. And I thought, well, I bet you I could build a device that could just record a loop of video, and then you push the button, and then it would record another maybe 10, 15 seconds, and then save the buffer out. So I built that out of a Raspberry Pi with what they call a Pi camera. So the whole investment is maybe $35, and then a bunch of software on the back end that I wrote. So then you see somebody run the red light, you can press the button and it'll record for about 15 seconds and then write that last 30 seconds out. So you have the before incidents, before you push the button, and then after you push the button. And then I set it up so that when you get back on a known Wi-Fi network, it goes ahead and uploads all the video to Dropbox. So then you can, I guess, do whatever you want with it. I don't know. But that's just an example of some of the things that again, a curious learner, I always want to kind of figure out, what's that next cool technology, and then figure it out as best I can.
Can you share a parting piece of advice with the IT Career Energizer audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's probably two things I'd like to share, and it applies to no matter what your field is. I know this is geared more towards IT, but even if you're computer science or hardware or whatever it might be, but those two things are learn to sell and learn to communicate well. And when I say learn to sell, I don't mean be the salesperson, because that's that's not. There's lots of great salespeople out there, but if you're a technical person and you're in IT and you have this ability to sell and you understand how to describe whatever it is, whether it's products or services or maybe even just your own abilities, you're going to bring tremendous value to either your employer, or if you're self-employed, to yourself. And I do think that's a really, really good skill. And then the second one is just learn to be a good speaker and be able to communicate well. I mentioned earlier about maybe recording yourself and listening back to how you speak, and maybe things that you say over and over and over again. And this goes a long way when you're communicating with people. People, especially in IT and in computer science, those soft skills, not always very well refined, which that's kind of why I wrote the book Wired for Coding, because I felt we needed to do a better job with these computer science and IT students coming out. I felt their technical skills were top notch. These people understood the technology side. In fact, in a lot of cases, way better than I did, because they were closer to the new generation of technology. But really where they lacked was that ability to present themselves and communicate and show their work and show how they worked on side projects and maybe did things outside of the classroom. And as you know, we're getting to a point where we're seeing more entrepreneurs or solopreneurs or people that are working for themselves as contractors, and that's not going away. That's only going to get bigger as we move forward. And I think we're doing a disservice to our students now by not providing them with those soft skills to really excel and to really do a great job when they're out promoting what they're capable of doing and who they are. So those are a couple of pieces of advice I would give.
I certainly agree with you that soft skills, to me, is half of the skill set you need. Otherwise, success is definitely hard to come by.
Yeah, you're right, and half is probably even being generous. You look at it. I can teach somebody technology. I have no question about that. I mean, I teach fifth graders how to build video games. I am confident I can teach somebody that wants to learn how to code. What I can't do, if they don't want to understand or learn it, is teach somebody those soft skills. Being a good speaker or being able to sell well. And it's something that the person needs to want to do. And I think if they understand the value that brings, they're going to want to do it.
And finally, what's the best way that we can find out more about you or connect with you?
Yeah, and I'm super easy to find. It's funny, if you Google either Will or William Bushee, I'm the majority of the first few pages that come back. So those are all me. I don't know if it's just because my name is so unique, or if I've just done a great job on just branding things around myself. But you can Google me if you want. The two platforms that I'm the most active on are going to be LinkedIn and Facebook, although you can honestly find me on every other social media platform that exists out there. But I'm also happy to jump on a phone call too if your audience is interested in talking to me. Happy to give you can give out my contact information if anybody wants to contact you and set up a phone call.
Okay, great. Will, thanks so much for joining me on the IT Career Energizer podcast today. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. I appreciate it as well. And if you like, I had a little bit of a gift to give to your audience as well. So if they want to go over to my Wired for Coding website, wiredforcoding.com/worksheet, I've got a complete worksheet that they can use, which will take them essentially from when they start college to their post-college job search. And it covers all the things that I think are very important for them to do leading up to that first interview that they do. And it covers the obvious things like updating their social media so that they're not doing keg stands, but it also covers things that they may not be thinking about, like putting together a well-rounded portfolio for a business to look at, but also how do you actually get connected with those businesses in the first place. So I'd love to kind of kick all your audience over there and download that workshop.
Yes.
And if they're interested in taking a look at the book, they can do that as well.
Great. Thanks, Will.
Thanks, Phil.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this week's great interview with Will Bushee. Full show notes can be found on the website at itcareerenergizer.com/E25. In next week's episode, I'll be talking with El Mehdi Marhoum, co-founder of Benel Solutions, who describes himself as an entrepreneur and lifelong hacker. If you haven't done so already, please remember to subscribe in iTunes or Stitcher to get future episodes automatically downloaded to your device. And if you're enjoying the podcast, I'd really appreciate you leaving a rating and review in iTunes or Stitcher about the show. So until next Monday, have a great week.
Thanks for listening to the IT Career Energizer podcast. To find out more about building a successful career in IT, visit itcareerenergizer.com.